AITA for ignoring my husband after he ignored me in the hospital. This is going to be a long one, so buckle up, Bootil. Try to keep it as short as possible. My husband, 24M, is visiting his family in Florida. I am, 24F, visiting mine in Pennsylvania. I am currently 20 weeks pregnant with my first child. The past few days I was having pretty bad cramping, which I thought was just maybe Braxton Hicks or round ligament pain, so I ignored it. Well, yesterday, it started getting severely worse and there was blood in my urine. I waited a few hours, but when the pain didn't lighten up, I called my husband and informed him I was going to the ER. I was told it was a severe UTI, on the verge of becoming a kidney infection, which was causing me to have contractions along with a fever. I texted my husband about 20 times while in the hospital and didn't get a response. After finally discharged, I called him, and he was absolutely hit-faced. Of course, I get angry at him, inform him that I am angry, and say I don't want to speak to him tonight. Well, he decided to start messaging his family's group chat that I am a part of, also a Discord server I talked to all my online friends in because I wasn't responding to his text messages. I'll copy a couple messages. I'm sorry I'm not ever allowed to drink. I came home to visit my family one time and drank once. I'm sorry, I wanted to spend time with my family once, having fun. If you never want me to drink and spend time with my family, then I'll never talk to them again. But my dad died and I see them for the first time since, and you were mad that I drank with them once. Okay, sorry, I wanted to have a drink one time with my family after my dad passed ill. Never take a sip of alcohol again, just for you. For reference, his dad passed 7 months ago. I have never told my husband he's not allowed to drink. I even encouraged him multiple times to go out with his family, and I made the plans for him to visit them. I immediately call him to try to mediate and calm him down to stop the embarrassment he was causing me, but instead his sister answers the phone. She goes on to tell me I need to learn to trust, that her and his family told him to stay off his phone and to relax and have fun. Since it was she's last night there, that I need to let past hit go, and told me I am sensitive and dramatic due to being pregnant. And then he ignored me for the rest of the night. Now I just need to know, am I the asshole in this situation? Edit to add. He was not drunk before I went to the hospital. I spoke with him on the phone prior. AITA for telling my mother to off and saying she doesn't get to decide what I do with my life anymore. 3 years ago I learned that my mother had lied to me my whole life. I found out my father wasn't my biological father, that my mother had been married, widowed while pregnant with me, and Thatch severed all contact from my biological father's family. Met my father, married him, and they agreed never to tell me the truth. I only found this out because my maternal grandmother had me go through some old stuff at her house and I found photos and documents. I confronted my mother. She told me it didn't matter and to leave it be. I confronted her and my father. They told me what I learned changed nothing and to forget about it. I demanded they tell me the truth. So I got a story. She never said anything bad about my biological father or his family. Only she felt it was best to move on, and to let my father be the only father I knew about. She didn't want him to be my step anything. She didn't want me to ever feel like I was anything less than his. She told me I was never my biological father's child. That she had loved him, but he was the past, he was in the ground, and his family had no right to stay in my life. My father told me he wanted me to leave it there and not seek out my biological family. I told them I didn't want anything to do with them again. We were no contact for 2 years, my choice. I was able to find my biological father's family. They were so happy I reached out. They showed me how they had looked for my mother and for me. My mother's family admitted she told them and everyone she knew not to tell them anything about her life. And to never share where we were. I got to know them and they became my family. It hasn't always been easy. They have so much grief that they never got to know me growing up, and I feel it too, as well as how robbed I feel that I never got to know about my biological father. I look just like Hamand. I always wondered why I looked so different from the rest of my family. I also found out my father had set money aside for me over the weeks Heck knew my mother was pregnant. About a year ago some contact was reinstated between me and my parents. I haven't forgiven them, and it's not easy to speak to them. They did learn recently just how involved my father's family is now and how I have my biological relatives around. They don't like this. My mother decided to ask about the future, my wedding, etc., and said I can't, they've both there. I told her if she wants to better, she'd need to accept that my family will be. She told me I am choosing someone I never knew over loving parents. She also told me I was her child. It told her to UCK off and told her she doesn't get to decide what I do with my life anymore. She's still not over what I said. She called me petulant. AITA? AITA for telling my Bill, 22M, that he wouldn't be moving with us, 26M, 26F, to the new house. My wife and I decided to look for a bigger home last month and sell the one we live in. She told me she's finally ready to have more kids and wants at least 2 more. We currently live in a 3-bedroom house with 2 bathrooms. We have a room, my daughter has one and my Bill stays in one. Me and him have had differences in the past but we're good. Last week, we went to go view a home that looked promising. My Bill asked if he could tag along to see and I said sure. The house was beautiful and while we're there, he commented that he would like one of the rooms on the opposite side of the house. I didn't say anything at the moment but when we got back into the car, he commented again that he wanted that certain room. I straight up told him when the time came to switch houses, he most likely isn't going with us. He looked surprised and before he could say anything my wife looked at me and asked why he wouldn't be coming with us. I told her she said she wanted more kids and the only reason we're moving is to have more space for another kid. She said the kids could share rooms. I told her it wouldn't be fair to our daughter to sleep in a room with a baby that is definitely going to cry. She turned around and told her brother that she would work something out and that's he coming with us. I got upset and told her brother that he wouldn't because while I did agree to let him live with us but it was not permanent. It's not the life I pictured living. That he would understand once he gets married and has kids. My wife is upset and is firm on her brother coming with us and told me I'm selfish and inconsiderate of people. I did start to feel like a jerk after I thought about it. AITA? AITA for not chasing after my son? My middle kid ran away Friday night after getting very angry with us. He packed a bag and said he was leaving forever. It was very dramatic. My wife said to drive after him, but I said no, because I expect we'll be home for dinner. 2 hours later my oldest called and said he was at his apartment. He said his roommates didn't care and they were having a nice chat, so I said to call me if they needed anything. My wife wanted me to go pick him up, but I said space would be good for everyone. She was annoyed and went to get him Saturday. When he came back he was furious with me for just letting him run away into a dangerous city where I could have been killed, and with him mom for making him leave his brother's apartment. So we just can't win. My wife is also pissed at me and said we should have just picked him up Friday night when he was walking to the bus stop. We spent all of Saturday and most of Sunday being ignored or yelled at by our kid. She said that's proof my strategy was dogshit. I say it's proofers was, and that we should have met him stay an extra day. Am I the **asshole for letting my son run away? AITA, my son says I'm favoring his sister due to her illness. Sil said this place would be good to get some insight. I, 48M, have 2 kids, Aaron, 15M, and Jennifer, 15F. They are twins. I recently lost my wife due to her breast cancer and since then things have been hard. However, my wife comes from a very rich family which has supported me and my children ever since. Jennifer had been diagnosed with brain cancer 3 months before my wife passed. However, I've only recently received information from her doctors about how long she has to live. They say she has until 17 if lucky. This has of course stressed me out. My days mostly consist of doing whatever Jennifer wants to do before her time passes and constant doctor appointments. Sometimes these appointments clash with Aaron's activities and lead me to missing some of his most important days. Usually Aaron is understanding of this, but it seems not this time. His team had gone to the finals and were playing a game and he wanted me to come, but the doctor had called us earlier on in the day talking about potential treatments and I just couldn't go to his match. He came home mad and upset about how I had missed a game. I'd be fine with him expressing his anger, but the level he was yelling at was simply too much and Jennifer is very sensitive to loud noises. When I tried to explain this, he said that I was being a total ickhead and neglecting him. Aaron has been staying with his aunt since that argument and has not been contacting me. Only Jennifer EDIT. No, their aunt is unable to take Jennifer to her appointments. This is because Jennifer feels uncomfortable about being with anyone that is not me, or my wife. I am trying my best to give both children equal attention, but due to her fear of death, Jennifer has been extremely clingy and I just don't have it in me to tell her I need to spend more time with her brother and leave her. Please understand I am not purposely neglecting my son. It is the last thing I do. AITA for telling on my daughter's friend. My daughter is 8, and she had a friend, let's call her Jane, over for a sleepover. I was more than happy to host her, prepared activities for them and everything went great. This morning, my daughter and Jane insisted on making breakfast, which was fine. I allowed them to make toast while I made eggs and smoothies for them. They must have messed with the settings on the toaster, and the bread came out a little burnt. Jane said something along the lines of "Ew, what happened?" and before I could react, she picked it up and put it in the trash. I was appalled and shocked. For context, I didn't grow up with much, so tossing food in the trash is not something I've done or seen. Although I understand she's a child, I explained to her that this isn't okay, people work hard to afford food, etc. And of course my daughter was very embarrassed, which is understandable from her perspective. What is crazy is Jane's mom's reaction, who informed me that my behavior was unacceptable and I had no right to call out her child, and it was probably traumatic for her. She took no accountability for Jane's actions. Now 3 people are upset and I'm here thinking AITA. Edit. It's not as much about the loss of the slice of toast as the nonchalance with which it was just tossed away that was surprising. Just to clarify. Edit 2. I was shocked, as in it took me by surprise. It was unexpected. I didn't yell at her, I just explained that throwing food away isn't okay, and why that is. She seemed to take it pretty well, but must have informed her mom as well. I didn't see her mom in person because I dropped them off to school after.